Welcome back to this week's episode of the Inspired By Show. Now, before we start, I've got something I want to be honest with you all about. When we recorded Quintus's episode, it was the very first episode that we'd ever recorded on the Inspired By Show, which was from one part of the world to the other, using the beautiful tools with live streams and recording. Now, what we then found when Quintus came on the show, he shared so many inspiring messages and really shared vulnerably and rawly parts of his story that he's never shared before. And it was such a fantastic episode, and I'm so grateful for Quintus coming on. When we finished recording and Quintus and I went our separate ways, when our editing team was looking at the footage, we realized that some of the audio and some of the great visuals dropped and weren't able to be captured on the cameras and on the footage. And so, to be honest with you, it was really heartbreaking, because when we recorded it, I knew how much value this episode would have to all of our listeners and our viewers. And luckily, we've been able to edit, and we've had lots of specialists and people in our team looking at how we can fix the audio and the visual so that you can get a great experience whilst also receiving Quintus's raw message. And so, first of all, I want to start by starting this episode by apologizing to Quintus, because his story and everything he shared on the show was one of the most inspiring we've heard yet. And I know how much it is not only taking up someone's time to come on the show, but also having someone on to be so vulnerable and share so honestly is a huge thing. So I firstly want to start by apologizing to Quintus, and then to all of you incredible viewers and listeners. And I've got a favor to ask. We have now brought this quality to a place where I'm happy to release it and share his message with you. But I'm also very aware how frustrating it can be and how difficult it can be when you're listening to an audio or you're watching and the quality isn't quite where you would have liked, and it doesn't have the same level of audio and video that you would normally expect from our show. But I need to ask you to stay with us, bear with us, because when you look past that and you get to receive the messages that Quintus is sharing in his interview, they're life-changing. They're so beautiful and so inspiring. Some of the things he shares that he's never shared before, there is so much more underneath what you see and what you hear and the quality that it comes out at. So please enjoy the episode, stay with us, tune in and hear and see the beautiful story underneath with the incredible Quintus McDonald. Quintus McDonald.
Getting loaded, messed up everything. We see the horrors of drug addiction and alcohol abuse. But what we do not see is the person who is living in the beautiful home, driving the fancy car, that has $200,000 worth of credit card bills because they are using shopping for therapy. You know, I'm grateful that I've got a kit of tools that help me to check myself, all for me to say yes to come and play at that university. And that was in the 7th grade, and that blew my mind. People using the fact that I had not graduated against me. So I decided that I was going to take that off the table.
Quintus McDonald, welcome to Inspired By. How are you?
Hey, Chloe, all is well on this side. How are you on that side of the pond?
I'm really good, thank you. It's always great to talk to you, because every time I hear your accent, Quintus, I just feel so calm and relaxed. You're such a soft soul with so much success behind you. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and be here on the Inspired By Show. You are our very first interview that we are doing live stream, and with someone who's not based in the UK. So first time for everything.
2 number ones. Outstanding. I love it. Thank you for allowing me to be that.
No problem at all. And it's definitely not a new thing in your career as someone who has achieved quite a lot in your time. Now, we're not going to go into that too much detail right now, but what I'd love to do, Quintus, obviously, you're known firstly and foremost as being someone that has obviously been an NFL legend in the National Football League. You were top pick of your draft, and you were named as USA Today's Defensive Player of the Year, I believe. So I'm curious, I want to start there if we can, Quintus. What attracted you to football?
Well, let me be clear. I was not the top pick in the draft. I was not that guy.
Okay.
But USA Today Defensive Player of the Year, absolutely, coming out of high school. Parade Magazine Defensive Player of the Year coming out of high school as well. So those were tremendous honors. And what got me started playing football, probably my cousin Billy Spencer. I wanted to go and play. Billy was a few years older than me, and I always wanted to play with Billy. And we went to his house. I went to his house one day. We went in the backyard, and he started teaching me what football was. He said, it starts with the kickoff. So I'm going to kick the ball off to you, and you catch it, and then try to run to the other end zone. This is the end zone behind me. You've got an end zone behind you. And I was probably fourth grade, and Billy was probably seventh grade, eighth grade. And he threw the ball down. I caught the ball and started running, and he crushed me. He absolutely crushed me, and then made me get up. I'm like, man, get up a little dizzy. And then we started over. He said, now kick it off to me. And so I went back and I threw the ball down, and I ran down to try and tackle him, and he ran smooth over me. So that was my introduction to football, getting smashed by my big cousin and then getting run over by him. And we stayed out there playing until I got the hang of it, and didn't get beat up so badly.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a funny introduction.
And you still wanted to come back for more?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's just the way we're built in this family. And, I was able to take that lesson learned in the Deep South here in North Carolina with me to New Jersey, where we started playing. We were playing on the concrete roads. We were playing, tackle football in the streets and all kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's my introduction.
Wow. That's incredible. And Quintus, I often find that a lot of kids get started in sports at a young age. One for, being occupied as kids, not being bored, and also learning how to be teams and learning to be competitive and the importance of discipline. But not everyone goes on to make a career out of it like you did. At what point did football become something you actually thought, you know what, this could be it? Could be it. I was a guy who I just didn't see me ever not playing football. I couldn't see a time. I mean, I watched NFL on television, and that was great, but there was no, we heard one of my former teammates talk about he had aspirations from sixth grade to be in the league. I was playing in the sixth grade, and I was beginning to excel in the sixth grade, but I just kind of always knew that I would be at that level of playing in the NFL. I just never saw myself not playing, which is why I work so hard to give back to these young guys who are out there now, these gladiators who don't see themselves not playing either. You can't have that mentality going into this combat sport that, well, I'm going to retire at the end of the season. Then you need to retire right now, because number one, you're going to be a detriment to the locker room, which is a detriment to the team. You're going to put yourself in grave danger, because people are literally dying on the field. So if you're not prepared psychologically and mentally for the long haul, for the entire road, you need to just step down. So there was never a time that I didn't see myself not playing. So I don't know if that answers your question. That's probably really not an answer to your question, but I never saw myself not playing. I think that's one of the best ways to answer that, Quintus, because for a lot of us, we have this core belief or almost a hunger inside of ourselves where we think, do you know what, that's my calling, or that's what I want to do at this, what I call season of our life, right? At that season in your life, that was something that you, to your core, believed, because as you said, you didn't see it any other way. Now, one of the things I find fascinating about football, like you said, is it's such a heavy contact sport. How did you get into that headspace to go into the field and just be prepared to take it and really run with it? Excuse the pun.
Yeah, excuse me. That began up in New Jersey, actually, when I started with organized football in the 5th grade, and I was not very good at all. I didn't know. I didn't have the fundamentals of playing the game. And there was a coach that coached in the youth organization. He wasn't my head coach, but he coached one of the other teams, and we all shared the practice space. And he would allow me, after our team was done playing and practicing, he would allow me to come and practice with his team. So the work ethic of being the last man off the field, I mean, I was the first one to show up because I loved being free. It was freeing for me to be able to be out there running around playing. And I was the last one to leave because that coach gave me opportunity, and he coached me and taught me some things that helped me along the way.
Wow, that's so inspiring. And what do you remember about those moments where, did you feel grateful at the time for those opportunities? Was that the reason why you were always showing up, or do you think it was just felt normal to you at that point?
No, I was certainly grateful. I was tremendously grateful for any man, grown adult man, to show interest in me. My father had passed away when I was very young, so there was an absence of that role in my life. So the gratitude was immense for JP. I can see him clear as day. I don't even remember what his full name is, but he was Coach JP. I mean, this guy looked like a Nordic Viking, a big old 6-something huge man with the beard and the big old curly afro, and he allowed me to beat up on a guy who is now my lifelong friend. and I had no clue. I just talked to Corey. We just talked about that earlier this year when I was talking about JP helping me, and he was like, "Yeah, I was the center, dude. That was me. That he was teaching you how to beat up on." I'm like, "Holy smoke! How about that?" So that's pretty funny.
That's incredible, though. I love that. And I think, don't you find it fascinating when some people who JP, speaking in his words, possibly a lot of people, they just give back and they don't actually think he may never have thought Quintus McDonald is going to become someone in the National Football League, possibly saw potential. But I find it fascinating how people sometimes just give with their hearts, just full, and think, do you know what, I just want to help this person because they deserve it.
Right. You know what? And that's real leadership.
Now, I just wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to share a quick message with you. Now, I've been hosting these interviews with Inspired by Show for a while now, and I've been loving all of the great feedback from our listeners. And it really means a lot when you all share, from listening to these episodes, watching these episodes, share your incredible feedback. And I love that you love it as much as we do. Now, my mission for the Inspired by Show is to inspire others to challenge the norm, share their story, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable and, shock horror, take the mask off and be raw and real. So I have a favor to ask. Can you help me on this mission by sharing this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this message? Maybe there's a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know that would really benefit from hearing this inspiring story. If you could do that to help us help even more people to challenge the norm and push themselves out of their own comfort zone, then I'd really appreciate it. So if you haven't already, share this episode with a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know would benefit. Now, back to the episode.
And that type of leadership begins at the head. And the head of the organization, our town program that we were talking about, who inspired me. Coach Finney, Howard Finney, is the creator of that youth football program called the Cobras in Montclair, the Montclair Cobras. And Mr. Finney was that genuine, giving, caring about the community. I mean, he absolutely played a role in bringing our community together in the late 60s and early 70s when racial contention was at its height. Well, at a height, not its height, but at a height, very high level here in the United States. He played a tremendous role bringing our communities together through football, through actively participating and showing genuine love, selfless love, sacrificing. He was an attorney by trade, but we had everything that we needed and didn't have the money to pay for any of it. But he made sure that we got what we needed in order to participate. No child was left behind, for real. So I salute Mr. Howard Finney in his absence. He is resting in power. In fact, there's a movie being written about him as we speak. That's how much of an influence and impact he had on generations of children, now grown folks, coming out of Montclair.
Wow. Such an inspiration, Quintus. I love it when we come across these people, like we say, that do it with the heart, but maybe even don't do it for the recognition, And I'll be honest with you, I know you're sat here, Quintus, but you're definitely one of those people that's doing that. Obviously I was very grateful involved in your new book, which is, I say no, it's probably not that new by the time we're talking about it. I feel like it's been around for ages, and we are going to talk about that as well, because one of the reasons I asked you, Quintus, to come on the show was because you are an inspiration to others. You have definitely not had the smoothest journey in your career, even NFL and post NFL. Let's be honest, you've had quite the journey yourself, and we are going to touch on that. But before we do, I'd love to just go back to just before you really went into your NFL career. How old were you when you really started taking the football career seriously, and you actually, were focused on that as your career?
Well, I played multiple sports, so it was never my career. It was always, I like to challenge myself to be the very best I could be. Basketball was actually my first love.
Wow.
I just became a better football player. I lettered as many times in high school playing basketball as I did playing football. I was not a bad track runner. A track and field guy. I've got some championships in that space as well as basketball. So I was never singularly focused. I did everything to win. And in doing so, it was just evident that football was the niche for me, because I could do just about everything on the football field. And the only position that I never played was center, which Ray played, and quarterback. So the quarterback of the offensive line or the actual quarterback were the two positions that I never played. Everything else I've done. So it just was a natural fit for me. It was more natural. Even though I love basketball more, I did not have the body for the position that I played. I played center, and I'm 6'3.5". That's it. Well, it did gain me. I did get one Division I scholarship offer to play basketball. I really did. That was funny. But yeah, my road, my path to future everything came through football, and I that became evident probably 7th grade when we played an all-star team down in Florida, and an alumnus from one of the big Florida schools came to our locker room and offered to move my family to Florida and give my parents a job, and make sure that my little brother got the same education opportunity that I got, all for me to say yes to come and play at that university. And that was in the 7th grade, and that blew my mind.
Wow. That was actually giving me my next question, Quintus. What was going through your mind at that point? You know, lifting up your whole family and you being so high value for them to want to do that. What were you thinking about at that point?
This dude is crazy. And I was kind of in amazement. I remember hearing him say these words, and I'm looking at him and his wife standing there. In there, they were clad in the colors, in the school colors, and he had his hat on, and I was just kind of like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, it was just amazing. I don't know, I can't even encapsulate what my thoughts were. It was kind of like a dream.
Yeah. And it's a dream, Quintus, that a lot of kids dream of, but not a lot get the opportunity. What would you say about yourself and obviously your fellow NFL players, of which I've met a few from, thankfully, thanks to our connections this evening? What would you say that you all had in common? Obviously the talent, but what else would you say is one of the reasons why people get picked and selected for such a huge achievement and a huge career?
Well, you have to do the work. You get selected because of, we were talking in the show earlier, the numbers and statistics and things. Those things, the numbers and statistics, they really don't lie. And when you watch a player, like I have the advantage now of and for some time being a coach and coaching coaches who coach children and watching children, you can see that there's a child that has something a little bit more than the others have. It could be game IQ. It could be IQ for that particular sport. Because I played multiple sports, I also coach multiple sports and coach the coaches of multiple sports. So you can see players that have an IQ for whatever the game is, players that have a heart for team, and these are characteristics, the never quit. When players that step across the line and in their heart they know that they're going out there to dominate. You can't number one, you can't coach that. That's something you can't coach. Intelligence for the game, there's a level that everybody has, and then there's another level that very few have, and then there's that few who bring themselves at the highest level and learn the entire offense or defense and are able to now coach it. So once you reach the level that you're able to teach other players in other positions where they need to be and what to do on specific plays, that's the top level. And you will find I've got a little cousin who's playing at my alma mater. He's about as big as this ink pen, but he has the emotional intelligence, of the team leader. He is the team leader. He's the locker room leader. And everyone respects him, but he's this guy. That's him.
Yeah. And you're right, though. It's about so much more is about the work ethic and the almost hunger for it, right? It's like, and I see that. Obviously I definitely have never played football, let's be honest, but so I can't relate to that concept of it. I definitely wouldn't survive very long. But what I can relate to is in entrepreneurship, so similar. So many people have ideas, so many people have passions, but not many people can do it for a long period of time. People give up, people are tired and don't want to have to take the rejection. So I can see a lot of similarities, Quintus, in entrepreneurship as well as the sports space. Now, you're in both. You've obviously had an incredible career in sports, and you've also now been in business for quite some time as well. We're going to talk about that in a second, but what similarities have you noticed on your journeys of the two very different worlds? Is there things you've noticed about yourself or things that are similar around how to make it?
Yeah, they are very different worlds, but the concepts that are implemented to raise the bar and to grow and to do great things are truly all the same. Are you willing to work really hard to grow the space that you excel in, and then put some effort in to grow the areas that need growth as well? The 80-20 rule applies across the board. There is no place that it doesn't apply. Am I willing to put the work in to get exponentially better at where I'm great? I want to be the greatest. And those places where I'm very good, am I willing to put the work in to become very, very good in those areas? And that's the same with business. In athletics, you have the capacity to go to film and break the film down and look and see where you misstepped, and you've got that. Well, in the business world, we call it executive decision creative time. So I get to sit back and look at the conversation I just had, the second, third, fourth, or even the first conversation with a potential alignment partner. I get to go and break that conversation down and see what I could have done better, be prepared for the next conversation, go and do my research. If it's a research scenario, just like in athletics, you research the team you're going to play. You research the person that's going to be across the line from you, on the other side of the basketball from you. You research and you watch that person, you diagnose what it is that they're doing so that you can counter that or even force them to do something different. And it's the same in business. You do your research to find out who it is that do I really want to align with this person? Am I wasting my time? Is it worth the effort? And if it's a yes, now I do more research and in preparation. So it's about being prepared for the opportunity, regardless of whether it's athletics or in the business realm. How do you prepare for the opportunities that will come your way?
Yeah, I love that, Quintus. And I think so many people are not ready for the opportunities at all, or as well, they're not ready for the challenges either. Because as you know, in both worlds, in the sports world and in the entrepreneurship world, we go through God knows how many challenges, ups and downs and so on. And things that we're not prepared for. And I obviously was very grateful to be part of your book journey. And for anyone that hasn't got a copy of it, I would highly recommend it. It is a fantastic read. Quintus's, I believe your very first book, Quintus, He Chose You for This Journey, is a fantastic experience of your life, but also something that other people can read to help themselves through that. Now, the thing I love most about what you share in that book, Quintus, is you're so vulnerable. So many people that I interview on the show and that I get to connect with, they're great at showing their successes, and they know their labels really well to roll off the tongue. But I'll be honest, Quintus, when I first got involved in your book, I was like, you're gonna go here? Like, you're really sharing a lot. And I think it was really, really inspiring. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, how did you get comfortable with being that vulnerable, being such a public figure?
Well, that's a part of recovering from the places that I've been. I understand that my journey, that God kept me through my journey so that my story would help to benefit those who are coming behind me, that people would know that I serve a God of redemption. And if you want that same God, that there's a way to open up your heart and receive all of the blessings that you can read line for line, and there's even more that I didn't put in the book. There's so much more, but I think that we were able to capture the essence of the redeeming spirit of Christ in the book, which is what, that was the key for me. I had been pregnant with that book for many, many years. Too many years. Well, not too many. It came when it was supposed to, and here we are. The final product. I believe it's going to serve its purpose, which is to make people think and realize that, you know what, I can stop right here, turn around, and go the other way, and there is a God that will love me and help me to become the person that I was becoming before I started down that other road anyway. So.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's the hardest part though, isn't it? Is a lot of people can go on this journey thinking this is the only track. Because I think also when it comes to the work ethic piece, I think there's a shadow side to that, which is almost like an addictive personality, addictive to this is the route, this is the path I'm going down, no matter what. And I think sometimes challenge with that, Quintus, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm gonna make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that it's not always necessarily the right path. I don't know, normally like to use the word right and wrong, but we can be so stubborn in our path, right? And there can be so many signs that are shouting to us saying, stop it, stop doing this to yourself, but we just keep going. How have you experienced that?
That's 100% correct. I liken it to friction. With all of the friction that we could be facing, is it possible that if we turned, if we pivoted, that there'd be less friction and we get to where it is that where we know we want to go that much quicker, more efficiently? How do I go through life efficiently? And we've got there's tools for efficiency. I'm not God. I think I'll let him be God. I think I'll let God be God. There's some things that I can do. There's some things that are in my control. I think I'll do them and not sit back and wait for God to do the things that I have control over doing. So I'll do my part and leave the rest up to God. That's how I remain. Well, I don't remain, because it's give and take always. There's always going to be friction because I'm in this body and I've been given free will, and I think I know some stuff sometimes, and it turns out that I knew that I should have left it alone, and took my hands off of it, and I didn't. And now there's friction, so I take my hands off of it, and we're back to being efficient. So it's it's living life.
Yeah, of course it is. And I think a lot of us don't realize until we've made the turn that we needed to turn earlier. And if you'd agree with that, like it's like we keep going and then we're like, oh, this is the actual path I want to be on, right? It's like we forget almost that there is another option. And one of the things, Quintus, and for those people that haven't read your book, one of the things I want to touch on is the fact that you talk very openly about substance abuse and using substance to almost distract yourself through various things and that addiction that came to that. And I think I often find a lot of people get addicted, not necessarily, it can be to anything, but it could be addicted to work. It could be addicted to, narcissistic relationships. There's loads of addictions that we have. And you talk very openly in the book about how that was like the starting point before you realized you had to turn. I'd love if you could maybe talk more openly about that subject for anyone that may be struggling at the moment or just not sure if they're going down that path.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said it could be anything and not just substances, because society as a whole, we see the horrors of drug addiction and alcohol abuse. But that's vivid. It's out there in our faces. But what we do not see is the person who is living in the beautiful home, driving the fancy car, that has $200,000 worth of credit card bills because they are using shopping for therapy, to hide or to I love the way you put it when you were introducing this topic. I don't remember what you said, exactly what you said, but to turn away from what's really going on, to deflect ourselves from the reality that we are in. So the fact that it's not just drugs or alcohol that people are using, there's a plethora of things that folks use to deflect themselves from the elephant that's in the room, to deflect themselves from the big pile of poop that's sitting in the door in the front room. And we'll walk around it, we'll walk past it, we'll pretend that the elephant's not there. We'll do any number of things, from shopping therapy, which I'm not saying shopping therapy is not a good thing, but when you begin to hurt everything that you've been put here to do, when that shopping becomes a detriment to your family, when you are hiding and getting new credit cards and not letting your spouse know, or or pretending to be someone that you're not. I mean, it can express itself in any number of ways. When those things begin to happen, we really need to check ourselves. I'm grateful that I've got a kit of tools that help me to check myself, and it's for anybody. It's as simple as doing an inventory about what am I feeling, what's going on here, what am I feeling, number one, and then why am I feeling this, and then what is it that I can do about it, and what role did I play in getting here? That inventory, and it's just, it can be a spot check inventory. What's going on with me? What role did I play to get me here? And what can I do about it?
Yeah, I specifically love that question about what role did I play, because I see a lot of people that are great at pointing the fingers and saying, oh, it's because of this, or it's because of this. Not necessarily at people, it can be at this situation. I've been dealt a bad hand, or, I just haven't had the best possible scenario or upbringing, for example. But I love the fact that it's about taking ownership there. And Quintus, you've done a lot of that in your words, redemption, in your own journey as well. What was the turning point for you to go from, your words, this addictive mentality and this substance use to, and because you actually talk about it in your book, saying that it was almost like it was attached to every fiber of your being. I remember reading that and thinking, God, it was such a pull. What was the turning point for you to go from that pull to this set of tools and this new journey that you're on now?
That God had to do something very special for me, because I call them moments of clarity. We'll have a moment of clarity and be like, man, this is just not right. I need to turn and go the opposite direction. I need to pivot somewhere, somehow. And some pivots took for a period of time. And then it was, back to the same old, same old. What happened to me was God just took the taste for all of it away from me. He took the taste like nothing worked in this one moment in time. I mean, I was preparing to get on the train and to come, come east, and I knew that I did not want to bring all of that baggage with me, but I didn't know how to stop. And God just took it. He took it all away. Like the alcohol, I couldn't get drunk. I couldn't get high. None of the things that I was prepared to do that were not Christ-like, I couldn't do it. And it was probably 12 hours later that I was getting on a train. And my prayer getting on that train was, Lord, show me what true intimacy is. I need an intimate relationship with you so that I could have relationship here on earth, because I didn't know how to, I didn't, all the things that I knew about dealing with people, um, I could run a business for a period of time, but then I'd get loaded. And getting loaded messed up everything. That never worked out once I got loaded. So I knew that by God taking the taste away, I'd not get loaded again, but learning what a real true intimacy was going to help me with dealing with people, so that I didn't point the finger at people and go get high again. Because it's easy when you've gone down that road getting high at things and getting, loaded because they did this and all of this stuff from the outside. When you take a look at the inside, I couldn't even get to take a look at the inside because I wouldn't stay clean long enough. But learning what real relationship is gave me that opportunity to get the inside clean and see, man, God created something wonderful when he created Quintus McDonald. And I've got gifts to give back to the world. I've got stuff inside of me that needs to be given back. It's not mine. I get it, that he didn't give me these gifts for me to keep and take to the grave. He gave me these gifts so that I could give them back to the world and help to make this world a better place. So
I just find it fascinating, Quintus, when I hear you say that, because I often find that a lot of the time, we talked about belief really early on in this interview. A lot of the time it's like someone else had belief in you to start your sporting career. Really, it wasn't even just football, like you said. Someone else saw something in you, and now again that's happened again, just a different part of your life and your career. But Quintus, one of the things I love that's just fascinating about your story is obviously you didn't follow the traditional path when you left in the sporting career. You went off and you've done some incredible things. And then I remember when you said about how you've then you actually went back to study again. So I remember reading in your book and finding more about you, that obviously you went on this journey, you had the turning point, and along that journey, you decided to actually go back and get your degree and study. So tell us more about the need or the wants to go back into that world and do that for yourself this time.
Yeah, it was definitely about me. That was one of the goals that I set leaving high school, that was still attainable. The father time and injury and just moving along through time had taken many of the goals that I set in high school off the table, but that was still one that I could achieve and attain. And I'd witnessed firsthand in the business world, people using the fact that I had not graduated against me, to the tune of, seeing people who had far less skills than me at whatever job we were doing, getting paid $20,000-$30,000 more than me annually. And they hinged that on the fact that I didn't have my degree. So I decided that I was going to take that off the table. And I'm grateful that in the process, God told me that I'd work for no man again except him. So I'm grateful for that. So we got the degree exactly 30 years after the same spring, 30 years later, I got to graduate and walk across that stage. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. My wife was there. My mother was there. My aunts, uncles. There was a group of family that came up and participated in that with me, to celebrate what God had done. So that was a big deal.
It's such a big deal, Quintus. And the reason I love it, hearing the story from you, is because so many people probably listening or watching this thinking, oh, it's too late. I can't do that vision I had 20 years ago because of I'm not the same size. I don't look good enough. I'm not smart enough. I haven't, whatever rubbish is going on, right? I find your story so inspiring, Quintus, because you've proven that it doesn't matter where you start, where you end, doesn't matter what cards you're dealt, it's the passion and the purpose and the mission behind it that has helped you continually on your journey.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's about now, it's about helping those that I have access to understand that they've got purpose. Helping an individual understand that they've got purpose helps them to become an asset to themselves, to their family, to the community at large. So I'm excited. I'm super excited. I'm grateful that God kept me alive through all of my trials and tribulations, to be at this point where I get to connect with people like yourself to get the word out there, that we should not, that no one should ever become weary and quit and give up, regardless of what it looks like. Regardless of what it looks like, don't give up.
Yeah. It's so important though, isn't it? Because Quintus, like you say, it regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what you think or you believe or what people are telling you, because for a tiny bit of context, before we were on this show, I was actually interviewed and was featured on Quintus's Heart of Influence show just before this. So we keep talking about the show before. That's what we're talking about, right, guys? So if you're listening and thinking, what show before? And there was actually a number of NFL players on there and some real, incredible, inspiring people. But one of the things I found fascinating, Quintus, is that you all had the same message. It's along the lines of don't just do what you think you have to do, or there's a lot of that in the industry, in all our industries actually, that we have to be a certain way and do it in a certain way, and this is the mold. And I found it really interesting earlier because there's so many of you almost pulling together to break that mold now and go, actually, that's not what we experienced those years ago, is not what we want for the future generations. And you're doing that with your own businesses as well.
100%. That those days of doing exactly what they say and doing it their way, now what they care about is championships. So when we as players understand that what I need to do is become the best version of myself, period. Staying within the rules, of course. Nobody's saying go out here and take a bunch of metabolic steroids and all of these things that are out there and available. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, how much will you test this body, put this body under extreme pressure, so that whenever the whistle blows and the ball is kicked off, that you're able to go out there and dominate. That you're able to go dominate. That's the goal.
Yeah. And like you say, when it comes to what they say, I love that so many of you now are on this journey to get rid of that cookie cutter approach, or that norm that's being created, and prove that actually you can be the best version of yourself in whatever regard. And that's one of the things that I love about what you're doing now as well, Quintus. So tell us a little bit more about your mission now and the path that you're on now.
Well, there's a mission overall is really to impact communities globally that have been traditionally and systematically set back, downtrodden. I don't know how much you and your audience know about the American history, but there were many Black communities where we were building wealth and growing that were destroyed. Several of them were actually put underwater. They diverted rivers and dammed up stuff to cover over communities. Some were actually blown up and destroyed by fire. Tulsa, Oklahoma was the biggest one, Rosewood, Florida. Just all of these things, and in our government, there are systematic ways of keeping people oppressed. And what we are doing at I Am Recycling is our very best to come to these communities. We embrace them, and then we educate. We'll leverage our relationships in the career, job space, as well as helping people who have tremendous ideas and have put work in. There's people with skincare products and a company that has been in the profit realm for a number of years and just needs an influx of cash so we can take off exponentially. So we're working with those people. And when I talk about these communities, it's not just people who look like me. This society, we call it capitalist society. And unfortunately, that word has become a curse word, which I don't believe it has to be. I believe that we can do expansion and growth together, and then go and give back and bring these people that have been forgotten and left out, train them and give them opportunities in these careers. And that's what I Am Recycling is all about. And we use our wellness company. We've been blessed to be a part of a team that created a wellness company. And we've got the best quality feminine hygiene products on the planet, period.
Wow.
We believe they are, women are saying they are the most comfortable. They keep them dry. Not to mention that we are completely chemical free, and our product has so much plant-based polymer in it that it's biodegradable.
That's incredible, Quintus. Wow.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
So very excited about that. And we are customer centric. You would think that someone comes up in a capitalist society, capitalist community, comes up with this wonderful idea that we would put a ridiculous price tag on it. Well, what we've done is made it customer friendly. And we launched June 1st of 2019. And as of June 1st, 2022, we had more than 45,000 subscribers, people who've given us their debit card to receive our product on a monthly basis. And we have gone global. We are in Nigeria. We're in all of North America, so Canada and Mexico, as well as the United States, working on Jamaica. There's opportunity to grow our product, not product base, but our customer base on a global scale.
Wow. I think it's so great though, Quintus, what you're doing, because what you're doing is taking, like you said, your mission is so wide and is huge. Let's be honest, you've got a very big vision and mission, but you're doing it in so many different ways. And especially like with the I Am Recycling, as you mentioned, it's not just education, it's opening doors as well, because obviously you have got a lot of contacts and a lot of people, and not people will think, oh, I've got this idea but I don't have the contacts, or I have this idea but I don't think I'm good enough for it, whereas you're actually helping them either get jobs or start businesses and really giving back in what I believe to be the truest form.
Well, thank you That's what I believe as well, which is why we do what we do.
Exactly. Oh, Quintus, I feel like I could talk to you forever, and I've totally lost track of time. So we're probably way over to the time I said that we would be. But thank you so much for sharing on the show here. Last question, well, two quick questions, if I can, Quintus, before we wrap up. First one is, obviously you've had a lot of people in your career and you've had your own journey of development. Who would you say has inspired you the most on your journey?
The most is difficult, because there's been people in various sections of life that God brought them in right when I needed that particular type of inspiration to get me to what's next. So the most it would have to be my grandmother. My grandmother, when I was still living in North Carolina, my grandmother told me back in 1971, 72 about this day. She told me what my future looked like. And so that's just been ongoing. I mean, that's just super duper inspiring. And there's so many people. I've been blessed with a tremendous amount of people, relationships that I have, and one of the people that inspires me still today. You met him in the previous show, Sam Clancy, and I think that it makes sense. I don't want to use the word apropos, but I said it anyway. But it makes sense. I didn't use it in a sentence. It makes sense that the street named after Sam is a way, the Sam Clancy Way, because Sam, you heard him introduced, he never played college football, but he had a 13-year NFL career, and then coached in, over there in London. Well, I think it was the Monarchs, I think. So he coached overseas and then came back and coached in the NFL for a number of years. But the thing about Sam that anyone will tell you is that he is 100% love. And that's the Sam Clancy way, is a way of love, which is what this world is so desperately in need of. So Sam inspires me. The fact that he's, working with all of these young people and what he has to give back. Look, I would send someone to Pitt against Penn State, which is like sacrilege, just to be around Sam. That's how much of a jewel that man is. So those children are getting a tremendous education on how to carry yourself and how to move and in love on a daily basis by being around him.
Oh wow, what an incredible inspirational person. And obviously I've met Sam, as you said, on the show earlier, and totally agree that his inspiring story would definitely continue to inspire many. So thank you so much, Quintus, for recommending him as well as an inspirational person. And my final question for you, Quintus, which you can explain as long or short time as you like. What's next for Quintus McDonald?
Oh, we're into what's next. NIL. Are you familiar with NIL?
I'm not. Fill me in.
Okay. NIL is an acronym for name, image, and likeness, which allows high school and college players to be paid by public entities. Yes. So that has the capacity to level the playing field for minorities in athletics across the board. It has the capacity to bring up the HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities here in the United States. There's over 100 of them that have been left behind, literally, very much like the communities that were destroyed. Some of the destruction. When the environment itself is detrimental to growth, then the people in that environment begin to feed off of one another. And then all of the people who made it that way get to point and say, look, I told you so. Look what they're doing to themselves. However, the fact of the matter is, these people are the ones that created that 20 years ago when they did what they did to make that manifest. So now we have, through the NIL, the capacity to help our HBCUs grow, to help our youth that are coming out of families that have been left behind. So now, not only are you helping that child, but you're helping the family unit as a whole. So I'm super excited about that. In fact, we've got the I Am Recycling. We've got a team from Foley and Lardner LLP here in Washington, D.C., a part of that team is on the rules committee with the NCAA to put these rules together. So very excited about that. In fact, we've got a we call it a focus group. We've got a focus group coming up on Wednesday, and I'll gladly share that information with you. It's something that you'd be interested, because there's going to be story after story after story about the NIL. So that could be something, another storyline for you, young lady.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Quintus. And honestly, thank you to everything you're doing. I know, you definitely want to stay still for very long. You said the book was an idea you'd had for ages, and it's come out, and it's just helping so many people. And I'm so proud of you, Quintus, more so for sharing it, because a lot of people have an idea of a book and never actually, finish it. So the fact that you've put it into the hands of people that need it and shared so vulnerably here as well on the show. So Quintus, thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing to interview you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chloe, for having me. I'm grateful that you reached out, and I think the timing was perfect. I know we've been trying to get this done for a period of time, but being together for a couple of hours made this that much easier, I believe. So thank you so much for your time.
Exactly. Absolutely. And for anyone that's watching or listening, if you haven't already, do get a copy of Quintus's best-selling book, He Chose Me for This Journey. I'll make sure the links are all everywhere in the description, so you're just one click away from reading this incredible story. And I intentionally didn't ask too much so that you don't have too many spoilers. There is plenty more of Quintus's story for you to have a read in there. So do make sure you get a copy of that. And I cannot wait to hear what you all think, and see you next week for our next inspiring guest.